Hi, my name is Jeff Phillips, and I'm here to talk with you today about acoustics. It all starts with acoustics, and if it doesn't, you're doing something wrong. Okay, so I want to ask: does your client's room look like this? Does it maybe look like this? How about this? How about this? You getting a trend here? They're all pretty reflective, non-absorptive rooms. Oh boy, this is bad, right? Oh my gosh, who wants to put a sound system into there and then take responsibility for it? Not me. How about this? Different kind of can of worms, but sometimes the similar problems. So, why is it that AV professionals continue to ignore acoustics? You know, and I know, when we walk into a room, we're like, oh, dude, we need to fix the acoustics in here, right? But yet, you and me and our colleagues sometimes just ignore it. And why? Well, I have a feeling that number one is the fear of the unknown. If we don't know what we're doing with acoustics, we're not going to do it. We're not even going to go there, right? Maybe it's not in the company's wheelhouse. Maybe the company's decided that, really that's not where we want to play. Maybe there's a fear of losing a relation or damaging a relationship with a client or a job if you end up coming in over their budget or spending half their budget on acoustic treatment. Yet that might be the very best thing you can do. Now, if you were to ignore acoustics, you might fall into one of these quadrants, right? You can install an OK system and ignore the acoustics, and you may just lose the client, because they're going to be disappointed in the room. They're going to point to you and they're say, hey, if you only put in better equipment. Or maybe because you probably didn't even bring up acoustics, right? But that's where you lose clients right there. Now, if you ignore the acoustics but you put in a great system, they've spent a lot of money on it. They might be a little bit more forgiving. They're just like, okay, I guess that's what the system can do. But you'll keep them for now until someone comes along and solves the real problem, right? Now, if you solve the real problem, and you put in an OK system, then you might keep the client. You're likely to keep the client because you've taken care of the actual problem. Now, the magic comes here, right? When you put in a great AV system and you've addressed the acoustics and the room is really set for human communication, the CEO he or she can hear the far side of the meeting. They can be heard on the far side as well. Then you're going to get referrals, and that's where we all want to be, right? Okay, so now room acoustics really comes down to two things. I want you to think about two things when you go into a room and you say, what is it about the acoustics in this room? One is room modes, and that's based on the size of the room, right? And the shape of the room, and the ratio of the dimensions, and things like that. Any given room will have some resonances. Think of it like plucking a guitar string or something. There's going to be some resonances that occur at certain frequencies because of the size of the room. You can't really control those, but you need to be aware of them because they might be important. Now, if you have a big cathedral, those resonances are going to be such at low frequencies, you don't really care about them. You get into the smaller, larger boardroom, say, and that's a bigger room. The resonances are likely to be low enough in frequency that they're not interfering with human communication. That's the good side. But the downside is that the lower the frequencies get that we have to deal with, the more material it takes to absorb them. So that's the problem with bigger rooms. Now, smaller rooms, smaller problem. But in a way, smaller rooms can be the resonances can be in the range of 250 to 500 hertz. It's easier to absorb those frequencies with the material that we have, with less material, because it's higher in frequency, and it might take less of it. So that's good. But there's a bigger chance that those frequencies are going to interfere with communication. So if we don't address them, now we got an even bigger problem. So room modes. Second thing is reverberation. Now, reverberation matters a lot in big rooms. It matters hardly any in small rooms, right? But it's always a good measure of how much treatment do we put in to make the difference that the client wants. So, general guidelines. I just picked a little boardroom there. Carpeting, good. That's a good start. Carpeting, though, is usually thin carpet on concrete in industrial and commercial settings. Not that effective in anything but the highest frequencies. You could count on it to absorb frequencies over 2,000 hertz, but beneath that, where all the problems are, forget it. The carpeting is not going to help you. People are good. But this room accommodates, looks like 8 people, maybe cram a couple in more, a couple people more in if the acoustics are a real problem. The people will absorb a lot of mid-low frequencies and help things be heard more. The problem is that more people create more noise. Different issue. Not for today. So the next thing would be padded chairs. Padded chairs are great. Thin padding on like on these chairs, not so useful. Thicker padding, yes. Windows, ugh. Windows reflect a lot of energy. Same thing with whiteboards and displays, ugh. Now, acoustic tile ceilings, good start, right? Now the problem is that all that absorption is up on the ceiling. So you've got to, the sound has to be able to bounce around and get up to the ceiling before it's absorbed. That might take a while. It might take a couple bounces. It might be a lot of reverberation in the meantime. So not a great solution, but way better than not having any absorption on the ceiling. So here's things to talk about with your client. They're going to say, all right, so where do we put some absorption? And you're going to say, well, number one place is upper walls. The upper segments of your walls are the places where, well, think of it, down at the lower layer where people are and furniture are, there's a lot to absorb the sound. Up there, it can just bounce around without anything getting in the way, and that's a problem. So we put panels in the upper walls, and that's really the best way to start. Now, secondly, maybe we supplement that, or in place, maybe we can't do flat panels. Maybe we treat the corners. You can get like 90-degree round cylinder quarters to put in the corners that are absorptive, and they're going to especially help in the low frequencies because low frequencies tend to build up in the corners. So corners, yeah, good choice. And third would be ceiling clouds. This is an order priority, 1, 2, 3. Ceiling clouds are a nice way to go if that's the only place you can treat is the ceiling. What we're going to do is drop those panels down, right? Because if the sound can get around them, they act like a bigger panel and they can absorb even more sound. Okay, so if nothing else, please at least start the discussion about acoustics with your client. You know it's a problem. I know it's a problem. They probably think it's a problem too, but they don't know what to do about it. You can at least start the discussion, and let's talk about it. Clients are going to want to know these 3 things: how much treatment is necessary, what's it going to cost me, and what's it going to look like. So, sound marketing, we've worked out a workflow for you. We're gonna help you with analyzing the absorption. We're going to help you analyze the room modes, right, and rank them. And we're also going to give you some sort of graph that shows you, all right, so here's where you are now, the red line. Here's where we want to be, the blue line, ideally. But we think that this putting in this amount of absorption is going to bring you down to where the room is much more usable than it is today. That's where we want you to be, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client. So we can also go ahead and do things like do some 3D modeling with you. If you think this is going to make the difference, we'll put in the time on your behalf and we'll come up with something that lets you show what the absorption is going to look like in place, or at least what our suggestion for it is. Now keep in mind, any of these panels can be printed with the customer's logo. Customers love their logo. They love pictures of the machines that they make, or the happy customers, or the happy employees that they have. So don't be afraid to bring up the idea of custom. Sometimes when people think about panels and they think, ugly, monolithic, blah, 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 you tell them about, well, we can put your logo on it, and it changes the whole discussion. So don't be afraid to go there. We'll help you with that, okay? So if you want to look at more options here, PurdueAcoustics.com is a good place to look. There's our sound marketing site. There's my personal information. And please make acoustics part of your offering. With it, you can put in some good systems and retain clients. If without it, you're kind of leaving it to the wind. I don't know what's going to happen. Next guy's going to come along and put it and address their acoustics and take that customer away from you. Just saying. Have a good day.